Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Breakfast with Bobby. It's the two of us today, and we have no idea where this conversation's going. We've been talking about broken down cars and medicine and all kinds of weird stuff already this morning. So, all right, welcome, Bobby. Thanks for being here with me.
Yeah, we're in it together, Christina.
Yes, we
Thank you
are.
for thanks for humoring me and participating. And I have to keep reminding myself that the reason that we're doing this show is so that, we thought other people would enjoy some of our conversation. And it can't always be, some educational conversation where we're going to learn to get a degree, and in
Yeah.
society. But that being said, I know I talk often about doing master classes, and I learned long ago that part of a money miracle is finding things that are free, and
Hmm.
because we can't always afford what's out there, so I found another master class. Of course, I did, and this one, every one of them, I find nuggets that actually help me to find out more and dig deeper into who I am.
Hmm.
I think we spend the majority of our life figuring out who we are, trying to fit in. And one of the master classes also that I just dabbled into was about how when you grow up or as you come here to Earth, how you bring in all kinds of different energies with you and how that affects who you are. And so, when you were in utero with your mother had all kinds of opinions on how you should be and what they're going to do for you and how they're going to form you. And then you get here, and now you have your mom who takes the majority of the care of you most of the time. And so you have a lot of opinions and energy that's instilled in you from your mother. And then you have your dad. And so you get to a certain point, like around pretty much free flowing for the first couple of years of your
Hmm.
life. And then you get to be about two, and then all things sort of change. Then somebody decided you need to be a part of society and you need to have some rules about how to act and how to behave. And so now you have all of these shocking things going on, trying to adapt to life. And sometimes we're not doing so well about it. But those are all things that really influence us. And then we get to first grade or so, and that now we have someone outside telling us how to behave. And I know you behave like this at home, but you can't do that here.
Hmm.
So now we have all of these other opinions and attitudes instilled in us. So we're carrying all of this stuff around, and we're just sort of dopey individuals, banging into walls and bumping into things and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And then you get to a point like you're in, grade school and high school where now you have all of those outside influences. And what we really just want to do is just fit in. And then
Yeah.
after, and you don't even know if you do, we're just trying to adapt and trying different things. And then you get to a point somewhere in your teens, 20s kind of thing where you separate from your parents and you go out into the world, and now you catch another whole barrage of outside influences that tell you how to behave or not,
Hmm.
and how you form your opinion about yourself. And so that's where I am in this sort of thing and just figuring it all out. But one of the other things that came up in this master class was, we sort of drop hints about who we are and when we bring that in to our life. So a lot of it, and I never really believed in a lot of this, I follow it kind of flippantly and stuff. But your astrological sign has a lot to do with it about little attributes that you have. But what I learned was about your south and north nodes. And I've heard about it. You get all of these astrology people and they're talking about stuff, and you're like, yeah, yeah, I have no idea what that is. So your north node is your future of what you're supposed to be doing here. And your south node, which by the way is across from each other,
I
is
assume so.
is
I
what,
assumed that would be the case across from each other.
well, I'm glad. When you see an astrological chart that's, this big,
Yeah.
you would hope but, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So the South Node is actually what you bring in and your childhood traumas and how you grew up and all the lessons you've learned.
Mm-hmm.
And so your task is to get rid of all of that and go into the North Node area and focus more on that about where you should be and the things you should. Mine apparently is relationships and uh, which I've always really focused on. I thought that was really part of that's for me, that's what makes or breaks me. If I'm having a conflict with someone, my life just does not seem good. And it's
Mm-hmm.
hard for me sometimes to put aside uh, those conflicts and focus on the task at hand. And if you can do that, you are really a very adjusted human being that can separate life to the point of being able to function without letting your outside influences take care of some of your focus points. Anyway, I'm just kind of chattering today. So if you got anything else to say about some of that, um, you just have at it. So
I was basically just listening to you, and um, I'm one of those people that never fit in, and very early in life decided it didn't matter if I did or not. I didn't care if I fit in. It doesn't matter. And even the off times, especially probably during my teenage years, when I did try to fit in, I didn't. I didn't fit in. I've never fit the mold. And that's because I came to this planet not to fit in. You know what I mean? It's like the work that I do does not fit in. And the work that I do is who I am. And it's who I've always been. So, I mean, not that I haven't gone through, the ups and downs and the dark night of the soul and all that. But you brought up astrology chart. Man, we have what, 12
yeah,
houses
yeah,
and 12 things that go in. I don't know astrology. That's way too much like memorizing for me. But there's all of mine. Like if you look at the circle, all of mine are up here except for two that are straight across.
mm,
Everything is in career and spirituality,
wow,
except those two things down here. And I don't remember what those are. Everything. So this
yeah,
is what I came here to do. That's my birth chart. And most of it's in Virgo. So, which probably doesn't sound, for anybody who knows anything about astrology, it probably doesn't sound spiritual at all to have a lot of Virgo. But without all that earth, I would not be able to function.
yeah,
I wouldn't
yeah,
be able to function. I wouldn't be able to stay grounded. My North Node, I'm sure, is probably in spirituality or some kind of career thing or purpose or something like that. Um, for the most part, with some exceptions, even when I'm having a conflict with somebody or when there's something going on in my life, I can set it aside temporarily
yeah,
and do my job.
right.
And I think that's because that's where my North Node is.
Hmm.
It's in doing the work. And so, um, I don't know. It's really interesting. When you kept talking about master classes, here's my question. Here's my question. What makes it a master class?
I know it's a thing today.
I mean, it's
It's
like
the
a while
hottest.
ago, it was all boot camps,
Yeah.
like a
Mhm.
few years ago, it was all boot camps. And even if I was interested in the topic, I wouldn't take it because they called it a boot camp. It
It
doesn't
just
fit.
sounds a lot of like a lot of work to me.
Well, and it sounds violent to me because we associate boot camp with military.
It sounds very military to, yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
not where I
it's
am.
it's not where I am. And so
Yeah.
for me that never worked. I never took any of those classes. And now we're calling them master classes, but what makes
I
them master?
it started out a few years ago and
Hmm.
online a few of the very prevalent people, some famous chefs and like famous musicians and stuff were
Hmm.
doing short master classes. But the truth of the matter is the master class comes after what they do online.
Right.
the hook, line, and sinker to get you to buy that. Um, and so you are supposed to be learning a whole lot more, obviously, in the master class than you do in this online quick 2 or 3 day burst. But
Right.
lately, I've been finding some things that have some pretty good nuggets in it, amazingly so. Uh, and there was a guy online last night that was talking about um, you're really not as broken as you think you are.
Yeah.
And the other thing that bothers me about those things is everybody's writing books and everybody has things to sell, uh, which is how they make their living. For me, I do a lot of things online. I don't care to read much because my eyes bother me.
Hmm.
And so if I had a lot more audiobooks or if I could listen to it, I'm all there. Um, and I don't know if some of them have their information on Audible.
Hmm.
But for me, that's really the way to go. So that being said, there's just so much information out there that after these last three that I've done, it's almost confusing me that I'm the lines are blurring and I'm not even sure which class is doing which thing. But it's all really about self-identity and not only your horoscope, but then there's something called a human design where,
Oh, yeah, that is so confusing.
right.
Yeah. I know several people who are human design practitioners, and
Oh,
they seem to get it. They seem to really understand it, but it's kind of a combination of astrology and Chinese and psychology. I'm not even sure what's all involved in it. But
yeah,
yeah, I just find it confusing
yeah. Uh,
and limiting. I find it limiting. Like I've had people do my human design and it's like, oh, well, you've got this block here and you were just born with it and that's where it is and you just have to learn to work around. No.
I'm not doing it.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding, but there is nothing in my life I can't conquer, you
Look
know?
at you. Yeah,
Well, I mean, I'm looking at my history, okay? Like I have a really complicated medical history. I've beat cancer twice.
yeah.
I've do I look like I've had a stroke? No, I don't look like sometimes I
Well, it
sound like
depends
I've
on the
had a
day,
stroke.
really. I'm just
Yeah, I know, right? But I've had some very serious medical issues
yeah.
that, quite honestly, I probably should not have survived. But I just look at this and I go, no, you can't tell me that that block is there and it's never going to change because that does not work for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, it's I don't know, maybe I'm just a stubborn Virgo. I don't know, but I am willing to turn around and face anything at this
Yeah.
point, and I have turned around and faced anything. So for me it's like I don't I think I used to, but I just got to the point where you are, where I was just confused by too much incoming information. Just kind of had to go off by myself and just go, okay, self, time to have a talk.
Right. Yeah.
What are we really feeling here? What is really going on here? And I think that as we take all this incoming information that we get, there are nuggets, like you said, but it's also what resonates and what doesn't. You
Hmm.
know, I there's a phrase in the 12-step programs: take what you like and leave the rest. Not all of the incoming information applies to everybody.
Well, we're all different people,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's why there are excuse me, so many different cars because we are
Mhm.
all very different and the one size doesn't fit all. And you
Right.
have to really go internally and listen. And after being overwhelmed and having just this most beautiful morning with the sun shining and the birds chirping,
Mhm.
that's where I go. I
Yeah.
just stand out in the lush grass and absorb the rays of whatever's around and just really settle into listening to the birds. And that really grounds me.
Mhm.
So, we can fly around in space forever, and eventually we have to land and figure out what's working for us and what isn't, and get rid of the rest.
Mhm.
Uh, so,
Exactly. I mean, having expert input is nice, but
yeah,
eventually we have to see if it resonates with us or not. And
yeah,
some of it does and some of it doesn't, and that's okay.
Yeah, everybody's telling you that what they have is really the thing. And
That's
after
because they're
evaluating,
trying to make a living.
yes, of course, of course.
Go
Um,
ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt you.
it's which, one of the things I was watching too, some of it is really pretty darn amazing about
Hmm.
what you can do online. And the AI thing is so big. There was a man that was uh showing some videos about what he was doing, and only to find out that it was an AI video. It really wasn't even him.
Hmm.
And some of that's kind of it's kind of cool, but it's also pretty alarming.
It is.
You're not
It
even sure
is.
what's real anymore.
Well, and I think that that's kind of, I mean, if we're talking about ascension, I feel like that's the point we had to get to. What's real and what isn't?
Hmm.
You know, it's a really discerning thing, but when it comes down to it, it's all real, depending on how you define real.
Well, and there you go. And then you cross the veil, and that's real over there too.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Computer generated is computer generated, doesn't make it less real. It's just real in a different way.
Yeah, it's a real computer generated thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
But it's not like the in the example you used, it wasn't that one man doing all those things. The actions were put into an algorithm that created a visual that made it look like he was doing those things.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, it's very complicated, and it's going to get more complicated because we have already had this influx over the last decade or so of you can't trust anybody,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Can't trust the news, can't trust reporters, can't trust your own doctors, can't trust lawyers, you can't trust any of the people that you hire to do anything, right? So what's happened is that this huge underlying mistrust of everything now exists. So that complicates reality more, right? Like, what can you trust? What's real? Is this
I th-
person real? Is this person fake? Is,
right. I think
you
you're
know?
making a society moving forward that is very paranoid. Um, among other things, like you said, you can't trust anything. And so where do you go for the right answer? Where do you go to?
Inside. That's the whole
Right,
point of this.
right,
Because
exactly.
we can either go into paranoia or we can go into inner truth.
Right.
And those
Well,
are the two choices,
the
really.
world is getting pretty chaotic, and because there's not enough of the inside work going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's a
Yep.
lot of gatherings, and there's just a lot of stuff going on, which is sad. So,
Hmm. Is it sad or is it big picture revealing?
oh, look at you. Well, the violence is really kind of sad.
I
However,
agree.
you know, everything that's going on here is, in one form or another, very telling of what's going on the inside of other people as well.
Hmm. And how we feel about what we're seeing is very telling about what's going on inside of us.
Exactly. Right.
You-
A lot of it is very,
Yeah.
and like I said, I think I've said it in another time that when things get really chaotic, I tend not to participate, and then I withdraw and just I go into the quiet mode and go outside and not listen to anything other than the nature noises, which is the authentic reality of life. Of after everything is said and done, at the end of the day, that's really all there is that.
Hmm. Yeah. The natural earth sounds.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I used to think that people who said we were living in a matrix were crazy. I think I'm starting to understand what they were talking about. Like everything is somehow like we're influenced by everything, right?
Yes.
Everything.
Right. Which is
So,
where we started out the conversation of when you were
right.
born, coming into
Yeah,
life. Yep.
exactly. So my perception, sorry, lately is maybe this whole journey is about moving beyond the influences, all of the influences, and just going inside to what's true, what's real for
Right.
me. And the truth, I'm sorry, it's subjective
Yes.
because people will believe what they want to believe and they will call it the
Right.
truth.
Yes. And
So,
if you're looking for something, you will find it. You look long
exactly,
enough and you will interpret or misinterpret details. You can fudge it so that it turns out in your favor of what you're
exactly,
looking for. It shows up.
exactly. Yep. So it's all interesting how, um, I don't know, I think maybe I've just been at a point because I've been meditating a lot lately or something, but I feel like I'm an observer on this planet. I don't feel like I'm really entrenched in what's happening on this planet. I'm more of an observer and more of a, not so much follow me. I'm trying to figure out what exactly it is I'm thinking here because I'm coming from more of a feeling. And it's not so much follow me, but follow you.
Mm,
Quit following other people and follow
correct.
you.
Yes.
Dig below the anger. What's there? Dig below the sadness. What's there? Dig below the confusion. What's there?
Hmm.
And now there's this big thing about light workers and spiritual bypassing and all of that, and I get that. I get that there are people who do that, who just only want to look at the positive and pretend that there never was any negative, and they can just talk themselves into, I'm just positive all the time. And first of all, I don't think that that's reality. I
I
think
agree.
that we didn't come here to experience bliss 24/7,
Right.
because what are you going to learn from that, right? What are you going
Mhm.
to ascertain from that? However, there are some of us who have spent decades already doing the work, already going into the shadows, already facing ourselves. I mean, to the point of I don't even exist facing ourselves, right? Like
Mm.
really deep stuff. But then we have people coming along who, anybody who has legitimately done the work and reached a point of where I feel I am most of the time in my life, and that is I am genuinely happy. I genuinely love myself. I
Mm.
I would not have gotten through the last year if I didn't, right?
Right.
So, I've done the work. I've faced down those shadows. I've faced down those inner demons. I've done the work. And so I am at a place where I feel I am mostly light. And some people will argue with that, whatever, I don't care. But we are being taken down with the bypassers because people don't know we've done the work. So there's judgment in that spiritual
Yeah.
bypassing thing,
Mm.
So
Well,
because
you
there
can't always be happy. You just can't. That's so unrealistic. You're just not even in the real
are,
world then.
but are we talking about happy, giddy, laughing, smiling, or are we talking about happy being, I'm okay with who I am. I
Yeah, being
like who I
peaceful.
am. To
Sure.
me, that's happy.
Yeah, being peaceful within with who you are.
Yeah, to me,
Is-
that's happy. That's
Yes.
happiness. That's a
Mhm.
baseline.
Yeah.
Okay. So um, when I define it my way, yeah, I can be happy all the time, even when I'm having a hard day, even when I'm grieving,
Yes.
even when I'm frustrated. I still have that baseline of being happy with myself
Yeah.
because I've done the work to get here.
Yes.
And so, and I applaud anybody who's done the work because that can take you to the brink real quick.
It's not an easy thing. Right.
No, but it's worth doing.
Right.
It's definitely worth doing to be able to face yourself, to be able to honestly face yourself. And, as I have talked on occasion, I don't know if I've done it on this show or not, but I've talked on occasion about the vision quest that I did about 22 years ago.
Oh, tell me about that.
Um, It was, well, I did the formal Lakota ceremony with it, so there's a lot of stuff that goes along with that that really helps to get you into a place, like there's prayer ties. And for those who don't know what prayer ties are, you have little squares of fabric, like little squares of fabric, and you take tobacco, which is a traditional prayer thing in many Native American tribes, and just a little pinch of tobacco. And with each little pinch, you say a prayer, and then you tie it into that piece of fabric. And then you have another piece of fabric, and you do the same thing, but you tie them together in one long string.
Mm,
And um, that puts you in a place of gratitude, because it's always prayers of gratitude. It's always, or praying for someone, or you know what I mean, like
mhm.
positive intentions. So that's part of the preparation, a small part of the preparation, which is actually pretty big. Um, but then, uh, without going into a lot of details on the ceremony, because we could be here all day talking about that, um, you go off by yourself and you fast and you pray. I think I went 3, maybe 4 days. I don't even remember now. It was so long ago. Um, but I had a medicine person who came and checked on me once a day in the evening, make
Okay.
sure I'm okay, make sure that, if there's anything that I needed to talk about, anything like that.
Mhm.
Um, but the rest of the time, I was by myself praying and meditating. And when you spend that kind of time in solitude, it's you and your creator.
Right.
All other influences disappear. And I'm going to say I did this right after the 9/11 thing with the Twin
Wow.
Towers. I mean, it was like within a few days of
Hmm.
that I did it. And there was a lot to pray about.
Yes, I agree. So, do
Yeah.
you have a shelter that you stay in when you do the
No,
mission quest? I didn't think so.
no, no. All of those prayer ties, which is 405 altogether in that particular tradition. I'm not
Okay.
saying all Native American tribes, just that
Yeah.
tradition. And then I had a blanket. I actually had a sleeping bag, but the medicine person goes out ahead of time, takes all of your things out there, and sets you up. So they lay out your blanket, and they have 4 sticks on the corners, and they literally wrap it around and make an area where you stay. And I have to say, while I was out there, it did rain, and I never got wet. As long as I stayed in my area, I didn't get wet. It was like an energetic cover.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So you're not drinking and you're not eating for 3 or 4 days, correct?
They suggest chokecherry juice or something that's not sweet, because sweet induces hunger and thirst. And so I had a cup of like astringent juice, and had to negotiate with the ants because they liked my juice.
Oh,
And
ah,
it's 1 cup a day. And of course, I mean, they do take medical um, things into account, right? So
okay.
if you're a diabetic, they make sure that you have what you need so that you don't either spike or crash. I mean, there's logic involved in this too. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but that was probably the single most powerful spiritual experience I ever had, because it completely disconnected me from all outside influence. Even when the medicine person came to talk to me, they didn't bring anything with them. They didn't bring any news of the outside world. They didn't talk about themselves. They just said, if there's something you need to talk about, now's the time to do it. If you're struggling with something, if you've had something come up, if you're in crisis, something like that, that is what their job is to help you process whatever it is that you're going through, whatever it is that's coming up. And for me, it was the whole 9/11 thing. Like, I just kept getting messages from people who were either victims or perpetrators of the attacks, or where I got a lot of insights into what actually happened. Um, but it's not because I had any outside influence once I went there.
Mm.
It was just what was coming to me spiritually.
And so how were your nights sleeping?
On and off. I wasn't afraid. That's the whole thing. I wasn't afraid. I felt completely protected the whole time.
Mm,
And that's where I really learned to trust my spirit guides, where I really learned to trust the universe has my back.
mm.
The universe has my back. And so I never have to worry about things that I used to worry about prior to that.
Very
You know,
cool.
I have to
So,
say, coming down after spending 4 days primarily in silence with just nature sounds, everything seemed loud. Everything was moving way too fast.
mm,
Like, I didn't drive myself home. There's no way I could have driven myself home. But just sitting in the car, it was like the world was going by so fast. And we were only going like 35 miles an hour on the country roads. But when you sit still that long, your perception changes about
that's very
everything. Yeah.
sure.
I felt
Well,
like my soul had been unzipped and wide open, and I couldn't get it closed for like 3 weeks.
well, that's pretty cool though.
It's cool, but try functioning like that. Because I still
Well,
had to go back to work and take care of kids, and you know.
yeah.
So yeah.
Unfortunately, they don't give you, vacation for that.
Well, you can take vacation if
Oh,
you
you're
happen to have PTO, but not everybody does.
hmm reintegration, vacation
Mhm.
kind of thing. Hmm.
Yeah, reintegration was probably a pretty difficult part of it, but I still had kind of, I'm going to use the word ecstatic. It was kind of an ecstatic connection to the universe where, like, by the end of it, I didn't feel my body. It was like my body just, it moved, it did what it did, but I wasn't really feeling it because I was so one with everything.
Hmm.
It's something I suggest everybody do when they're ready to do it, because if you do try to do it before you're ready, you're going to have a miserable time and you're not going to get what you need from it.
How do you know you're ready?
I don't know. I guess when the thought of it doesn't terrify you. I mean, it still scared me a little bit,
Hmm.
but the idea of being disconnected didn't terrify me anymore. And I had small kids at the time,
Hmm.
you know, but I also had people taking care of them
People
that I
that you trusted.
trusted.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think when you're ready, I mean, how do you know you're ready? Because you feel it. You can feel when you're ready.
Yeah.
There's no other way to answer that question.
Hmm.
Nobody else can tell you you're ready. It has to be from within.
Well, you have to want to do it.
Right, exactly.
So you're in an area um under a tree. Were you under a tree or in the middle of
No, I
nowhere?
was on a hill.
Hmm.
There were trees around. I mean, I had like a designated place to, use the restroom and whatever, but
Oh, that was my next question.
yeah.
I always wonder about those technicalities.
Well, they take care of those technicalities. Yeah,
That's
you choose a spot that's, far enough away, but not too far away. And I was up there. I have had glasses since I was 7 years old. I was up there without my glasses. So
hmm.
everything I saw was inside.
Do you have to leave your glasses there? Everything that you own, you leave. It's just you and nature.
Well, I mean, I had clothes on.
Yes. The same clothes or
Yeah, same clothes.
okay.
Yeah. Because believe me, once you come out of that, first thing you want to do is take a shower, you know?
I
Um,
suppose. And
you
I
don't
think
take a toothbrush and toothpaste with you. You don't have, but there are, excuse me, it takes some self education, but, there are leaves and stuff that you can use to brush your teeth and, that kind of stuff. This is a commitment. I mean, it's not like, just, oh, I think I'm going to go on a 4-day vision quest tomorrow.
yeah,
Not,
right.
there's preparation and there's mental, emotional, and physical preparation.
I know people that run those types of things and uh I I've seen people do it. I know many people that have done it and I'm okay. I've not been called for that
Yeah.
task yet and I don't
I think it
mm,
is a calling. Absolutely.
I agree. You know, and
Hmm.
There are other people too. The latest thing these days is the ayahuasca and all of the plant medicine journeys and stuff.
Hmm.
And you have to be called to do that as well.
Yeah.
I have no interest in any of that either.
Yeah, I've not been called to that. I've never needed it. Maybe I
I,
just have a really good imagination. I don't know, but I've never needed it.
yeah,
I can go, all over the cosmos all by myself. I don't
right.
need,
Yeah.
and see all kinds of cool stuff and experience all kinds of things. I've never felt the need to use anything to do that. But some people do. I guess it helps, get past some people's mental barriers.
Yeah, it's got a purpose
Mm-hmm.
for some, but I
Yeah.
think stuff like that should be done, of course, with like with anything else, under supervision and under proper education and
Mm-hmm.
proper supervision, and not because some guy said, and here you go. Um,
What are you considering proper education and supervision?
well, I think you should have a professional that
Based on what? What defines them as a professional is what I'm asking. Because a lot
uh,
of those people never went to any kind of school, but they're
uh, uh,
professional at what they do because they've lived it their whole lives.
okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, uh I would be more comfortable with a therapist and a physician that was guiding and overseeing the medication so that there's no dangerous situation going on.
okay,
That
interesting. It never occurred to me, but at the time I wasn't on any medications either, right? So I
uh
mean, I wasn't taking any medications.
are you talking about your Vision Quest?
Yes, yeah.
I'm talking about plant medicine
Plant medicine,
administration.
yeah, yeah. I would actually feel pretty comfortable with someone who grew up with it, who grew up in a tribal environment with it. Much more comfortable than I would be with a Western trained doctor or therapist
Okay.
because um, they have lived with it their whole lives. They have probably seen every eventuality. And by
Hmm.
the time they are allowed to do that, they are well into past middle age. Let's just put it
Well,
that way,
I guess
you
what
know?
I'm saying is that kind of like a random person who did it a couple of times, oh, here, take this kind of
Yeah,
thing.
no, never.
Okay.
Yeah, I would
The tribal
definitely not.
people, those are the ones that where that originated from. I would call that professional,
Okay.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
If I were to get in trouble and have an allergy attack or something,
Mm-hmm.
they would know what to do. And I would trust someone on that level, tribal, spiritual, that could sense things more. I would trust that more than I would trust anything else.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
uh, obviously, where I worked this last time, the doctor would administer the medication, and of course, uh, we had a bamboo bag and stuff so that in case someone stopped breathing, you can
Mhm.
administer medical attention if you.
Okay.
So that's pretty much what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Mhm.
realize they did that there.
Yeah. Uh, right. There, a trauma therapist was doing all of the therapy, and it was a big, long, drawn out thing, and 4 or 5 visits, and each visit was 3.5 hours.
Okay.
And if there was
Yeah. Go ahead.
the medication administration had to be from a physician, and then they were checked on every, it's starting out for the first 15 minutes they were checked on, and then timeliness after that,
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure the patient was okay.
Interesting.
Mhm.
I would never do it in that setting because for me, it would be a spiritual journey, and that doesn't feel like a spiritual setting to me.
Yeah, this is apparently for serious trauma
Mm-hmm.
patients that uh, the only way that they could get over their situation and bring them back in and function in society was to integrate them into that so that their brain would match up with the
Interesting.
trauma. And right, it's a thing today. It's a big thing.
Wow.
But even them, they go through a lot of strict education, and they have to take it as well. So this it's a confined, there's a lot of seminars, and they spend a week or two doing this first, getting trained, so they know exactly what's going on.
Wow. I had no idea that was happening in clinical settings.
Yeah.
That's scary. To me,
Why?
that's scarier than going to the Amazon or Peru, whatever, and working with a medicine man who has, 60 years of experience with this. To
Hmm.
me, it's scarier somebody who's taken a couple of weekend seminars can now
Well, I think it's a
administer
little bit
the
more
drug.
in depth than just a weekend seminar,
Well,
but
you said a week or two of training. I'm sorry. Give me, a decade of training where they've seen all the eventualities.
hmm hmm
Maybe I'll trust that. But wow,
yeah.
that is interesting. Um, my recent experiences with allopathy have taught me not to trust, you know,
hmm
trust
hmm
myself more
Right.
than any
Yeah.
doctor
I
because,
don't I
I
don't
live in
think
this body.
it is not, as I suspect, as flippant as it sounded.
Hmm.
And again, it's just not for me anyway.
Right.
I will choose a different way to heal. And so this gentleman that I was listening to last night was uh one of the things he was talking about was, uh if you could do anything in the world and money was not an issue, what would it be? What kind of occupation? What do you want to build? What do you want to create? And so the bigger thing was, we are so programmed, again, to come back full circle of how we are, uh, how things are instilled in us and how we our upbringing and
Hmm.
all the people around us have an influence on how we think. And his biggest advice was, the past is the past. You let go of everything. It doesn't exist.
Hmm.
And so given that you are starting from a fresh slate, what do you want to create? Because the past doesn't exist. You don't know it's either going to work or not going to work. And it's all on you to create whatever it is you want to create.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Yeah. And
It,
I don't know if I agree with the past doesn't exist because that's how we learn things, right?
well, yes. However, you don't
Yeah.
know. It's the past is not going to influence
Right.
your
Right.
decisions of because outside influences will tell you, well, don't do that. That's
Right.
not going to work.
Hmm.
Uh, I know people who
Yeah.
did that. It's all of these your interpretation of things, and it's the majority of the time it's, albeit uh, in a kind way, they're hypothetically doing it for your own protection but their fears are showing through, and now you are influenced by their fears,
Hmm.
and your fears should not be their fears.
Right.
Just because it didn't work for them doesn't mean it's not going to work for you.
Right.
So there's nothing, the point of it all was, there's nothing that is impossible. The only reason it looks impossible is because no one's done it yet, but it doesn't mean it can't be done.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah. I kind of live my life based on that.
Well, and then there's you and I who don't tell me that I can't do something.
Because I'll do it
Hold
three
my
times and
beer.
film it for you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That is definitely my personality. But I still get blowback from people about you're traveling alone. I'd feel so much better if you were traveling with somebody.
Well, I've said that to you.
I know you have. That's your fear, though. That's not it.
I know, right.
It has nothing to do with me.
Exactly.
So, and it's not that I don't enjoy traveling with other people, but I really love the solitude of being in a car by myself for hours. I love it. I love that solitude.
Mhm.
That's where I get my time to process things. And most of the time, I don't even turn the radio on. I don't listen to books on, recorded books. I don't do any of that really. Most of the time it's just me in the road and the car.
So do you think your vision quest of spending all that time with Creator, alone and not being afraid, do you think that had something to do with how you deliver
Oh,
that today?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're not
absolutely.
fearful of what's going to happen.
Right. And I'm not afraid of myself. I'm not
Hmm.
afraid to face myself. I'm not afraid to be alone. I love my solitude. I do.
Mhm.
I like people. I love being around people too. I love the work I do. I love, all of that. But I love my solitude. And my favorite place, my safe place, is in the driver's seat of my car. And, some of that is due to trauma,
Mm,
being stuck somewhere with somebody who was hurting me and not being able to leave.
yeah, right,
You know? So for me, that freedom is also a response to trauma.
right. I remember growing up, um, my parents had moved up north by that time, and I just remember, when you're growing up and you're hanging with your teenage friends in high school and whatever, and somebody's got a car and then you carpool.
Hmm.
I never liked that. Now you are at someone else's disposal and you can't get out of the situation. So
Hmm.
when I got my car, I traveled by myself with an arrangement of things in the back seat. So in case, I had to stay overnight somewhere or I needed something, it was there.
Hmm.
And so yeah, it wasn't like my back seat was, from a homeless person or anything that you put all of your belongings back there,
Right.
but just enough to get along. But I always felt so much more safe and peaceful knowing that I was in control of my destiny, of where I was going.
Absolutely.
I was going to do it. Um, you know, Everybody else has their own agenda
Hmm.
and it doesn't have anything to do with you. Uh,
Exactly.
and so because they wanted to stay and party and I didn't, now you're stuck twiddling your thumbs and wasting time. And yeah, that I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. It's it's just it's just an interesting thing that when I don't know, I guess because I spend so much time in solitude, which sounds weird considering how much time I spend with other people, but when people say things like, "Oh, I would be afraid to take a solo trip." Why?
But yeah, I'm not.
Yeah. But I hear people say that.
Mm.
More women than men, but yeah, even a lot of men though are like, "Oh, I don't want to travel alone." They don't say they're afraid to, they say they don't want to.
Ah, yes. I just don't wanna.
I just don't want to. Okay. Well, that's okay. That's a choice too. I'm not judging it. But I love to be by myself, especially in my car. I just love the solitude. I love the time to myself. And
Yeah, the other thing I don't like to have people around for is when I go shopping. I love to shop by myself because it's on my own time and I can look at my own things. And
hmm.
if I want to sit down and read a book, for 10 minutes and figure out what that's about, sit down and have a sandwich or coffee or whatever. But someone else shopping, some people don't like to shop.
Yeah, I
And
don't
then,
like to shop.
well, I'm not shopping with you then. No way.
Oh, we've been shopping together. It's fine.
Well, I know, but it's not like I'm going to call you up and say, Christina, come on, let's go shopping. Um,
Hmm.
but even in the grocery store, I just really like to browse around in larger stores to look at all the little items. What if you need some? And being a somewhat of a cook, I'm always making something and what if you can't find it? And you need to know where it is in that store because not
Hmm.
everybody's going to carry it. But anyway,
Right.
I just
Yeah,
went off on a rant here, but
that's
I
okay.
I would prefer to shop by myself and go excursioning. Uh, for years, we've been going up north to Eagle River for a vacation, a yearly vacation. And for several years, the boys went up by themselves and I drove my own car.
Hmm.
And so, because there's all kinds of little towns and little shops and stuff to stop at, that's the only way that I could get to stop at them because guys don't want to do that.
Mm-mm.
And
No,
having two little boys, the last thing I want is two little boys in a store.
right. Especially a store with cute things.
Right.
You know?
And
Yeah.
by the time they left, they probably weren't cute anymore.
Right, exactly. Um, yeah, I'm like that too. I like to explore when I travel as much as possible.
I think that's
And,
how you learn.
and so I have discovered though that traveling with other women, you get to do that a lot more often because a lot more of us are into that. When I
Yeah.
travel with my husband, it's like get there and stop.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Look at all the cool stuff we missed between here and
Right.
there.
That was exactly the point of my driving up north by myself.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. I love my husband, but we don't travel the same.
Men don't travel the same. And, there are a certain type of group of guys that would, their idea of traveling and stopping is stopping at a bar or stopping to get something to eat and then going. And so
Hmm.
it's really, yeah, I'd rather drive my own car. I've been like that for 100 years and it's
Yeah.
not going to change.
Yeah.
And so part of my discovery these past couple of days was on what life path are you on? And I knew I was a number 5 in the life path, uh, but my understanding of it was different than what I've just learned. And apparently, go figure, apparently number 5 is supposed to be the most distracted number in
Hmm.
the whole deck, the number 5. The one who doesn't like to make commitments, the one who needs to be more vulnerable, the one who does not, contracts and stuff. And so consequently, that's where it made a lot more sense to know that when I was growing up, I didn't want to go with anybody else but you know what? When I made a commitment to do
Hmm.
something, I did it. And then begrudgingly, said to myself after that, shouldn't have done that. So, but I've always honored my commitments. At least I was decent about it. And so the life path thing um, also transferred over to which major arcana in the tarot deck is
Okay.
associated with that number.
Okay.
And ironically, really ironically, it's the Hierophant,
Okay.
the wise religious deity who is supposed to teach wisdom to the masses. Isn't
Interesting.
it?
I've not seen it equated to the tarot before. That's interesting.
I have not either. And so this has all been very surprisingly somewhat comforting and somewhat hilarious because, for a number 5 who doesn't want to make commitments, now I got to sit down and teach somebody what I know and a religious guy of all things. But apparently it is, that was the male version and the female version is the high priestess. And horoscopically, that's who I am, the high
Okay.
priestess. So it's
Cool.
all really kind of ironic and uncanny, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I just added mine up because I couldn't remember what it was, but my life path is a 1.
Oh, there's a lot of sites out there that you can find that information.
Hmm.
Um, and I think if you want to put that together, you have to have your birth date and you have to have, and horoscopically and some other things like the design, the human design, you have to have what time you were born. I don't-
That's astrology. Yeah.
Yes, it
Yeah.
all feeds into all of that,
Hmm.
the not necessarily the life path, but um, it just all kind of helps you figure out who you are
Yeah.
and makes makes your life a little bit more easier. It kind of eases a little bit of pain to
Yeah.
a sense,
Yeah.
to learn that I'm kind of a scatterbrain. I'm the little butterfly going, oh, look at that flower over there. Oh my God, it's probably sweeter. And then today, maybe I don't want sweet. Maybe I want a little bit more tart of a flower.
Who knows?
It's all about life.
Yeah. And I had like I said, I had my human design done by someone, and I think I'm a generator.
Oh, I am too.
Yeah. Most people are.
About 35%.
Yeah. So, yep, generator. And um, I know people who are manifestor generators. I'm like, I'd really appreciate some of that manifesting part. Come on.
Well, my understanding of the
Yeah.
manifester, though, is there's a lot less personality, it seems, in the manifester. They're
Oh,
kind of,
really? Okay.
yeah, yeah, the generators, us, we have the personality.
Boy, do we ever.
Right. There was something about reasonability or something, and I think I reason things out in my sacral chakra. I go
Okay.
with my gut feeling a lot.
Hmm.
So it's all been really pretty fun, educational, enlightening,
Yeah.
and I think if we had the opportunity to know all of this stuff sooner, it would have been way more helpful when we were growing up to know who it is we were and why we are the way we are.
Interesting.
Yeah. Rather than having to fish around and feel bad about yourself and have other people tell you that you're stupid and
But why did we
don't fit
choose
in.
those things? But why did we choose those things? On a soul level, not a
Yeah.
human level,
Yeah.
on a soul level, why did we choose to experience those things? I mean, I know
That's
there's a lot of theories, but I think it's
sure.
all an individual answer too.
Well, yeah, it's what you pick out that you think you want to learn when you
Or
get here.
experience or,
Yeah.
whatever. It's like my experiences have shaped me, but what has shaped me more, and I think this applies to pretty much everyone, it's not the experience itself, it's how we respond to it. It's how
Correct.
we grow from it. It's how we choose to take that information and what we do with it from there.
Correct.
And so, um, yeah, I cringe when I see these things about, well, I was beat up as a kid and I turned out fine. No, you really didn't.
Right.
No, just
Newsflash.
saying, newsflash, you did not turn out fine because you think it's okay to do that to other people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah, interesting. Life is an interesting thing. And I'm looking at it in my mid 50s and going, okay, well, I don't know where the last 4 decades went, but okay.
Sometimes I
Like,
don't know where yesterday went. Are you
I
kidding?
know, right? I know where yesterday went. I'm not going to talk about it.
Mm.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, it's really like life really is fleeting. And when I heard people say that when I was younger, I'm like, well, it seems to be dragging on for me. But then once I stepped into who I really am and really started to love who I am, not just accept, but love who I am, that it's like all of a sudden time is just disappearing. Like it's just gone. All that past
Mm.
stuff is just, the
Yeah.
time is just gone. I mean, I still have the memories, but it's still like just, we are here for such a short time. And again, I've heard people say that too. But what are we doing with it? That's the question each of us needs to ask ourselves. What are we doing with this time that we have, with this moment?
Yes. Well, I think, well, obviously that's all an individual thing,
Absolutely.
but I think once you cross over, and I know I've listened to you and Marcus discuss the near-death experience and what it's
Mhm.
like. I think once you get over there and you realize that all the shit that you were worried about is stuff you don't need to worry about.
Right. It's absolutely
It
not.
none of it makes a difference,
Yeah.
in 100 years, it's not going to make a difference. It's not going to make a difference tomorrow. And it's really how you hold on to all of that crap
Mm-hmm.
and move forward with it. And again, it really has a bearing on how you operate in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Should you learn a lesson? Obviously, yes. But you shouldn't go about your life and let all of that crap hold you back from doing what it is you're supposed to be doing or what you want to do, what you
Right.
want to create.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I talk to a lot of people, obviously, in what I do, and a lot of people, I'm going to say a lot of people are still, I just can't let that go. Well, then
mm.
why are you choosing to hold on to it?
Well, it takes up space in your body, and now you could put other things in there that are more creative and functional
And
and more
fun.
important and fun. And fun. Let's not forget fun.
Let's
Yeah,
not forget fun.
that's what
We
we're supposed to be doing.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Making a joyful noise like that one.
We don't need to speculate.
Right,
Joyful noises are everybody's opinion, anybody's opinion on what a joyful noise is. That's kind of
right,
fun.
right. And it's a reflection too of how you feel, of what you feel about your life, of what you feel about yourself. It's like I am so tired of the phrase, I'm learning to love myself.
Mm.
I don't think I ever learned to love myself. I unlearned how to hate myself.
Oh, that's clever. Yeah, that's right.
I think it's a different way of saying it, but it's also, I feel like loving ourselves should be the most natural thing in the world.
Right. I think uh, putting yourself first rather than yourself last is one of the things that I've had to learn.
Mhm. Oh, me
Uh,
too. That was a tough lesson.
yes, very
Yeah,
much so. And when you
yeah,
realize that you're making yourself sick, things
yeah,
start to change.
yeah,
And that's when you get the wake up call.
yep, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, this has been a
Well,
fun discussion
it
today
has, it
from
has.
starting out in a discussion that we had no idea what we were going to talk about. And it's gotten pretty in depth and serious.
Hmm. It
Uh,
has, but it's also in some ways lighthearted because we dove deep, but we also acknowledge, like we have said many times, we will do this show, Breakfast with Bobby, for as long as it's fun. And if it
yes.
ceases to be fun, we're going to stop doing it. Right.
Right.
So, really focusing on what does bring us joy, what's fun, what is, what and I think again, happy is a different thing in my opinion. Happy is a baseline in my opinion, but, um, what brings us joy, what's fun, what do we want to bring to the world in our discussions, and it's not so much about being an expert in anything, it's about being real. And I think that you and I do real very well.
Well, I think we're honest about
Hmm.
how we operate, and there's no guessing. You what you get is what you see is what you get. There's no
Exactly.
there's no fabrication, and I don't see any reason to do it anyway. I just don't have
Right.
the capacity to do it. Uh,
I'm just not that creative.
yeah, I'm not either.
I
I'm
just,
shocked at some people's creativity in
I
creative
know.
expression. I'm like, I would just never think of that.
I know, right? It's,
I don't know. Is that a good thing or not? You never know. Hmm.
I don't know. I'm not creative enough to scam people. I don't I just, it
Oh,
wouldn't even
God.
occur to me. Like, I don't even think that way. Um,
Well, some people think it's their job. That's the problem.
yeah. Yeah.
What do you do for a living? Why scam people?
I've never heard anyone actually say that out
I never
loud.
did either. I just made it up. Put that on your resume.
There you
Maker
go.
upper of scammer thingers.
I think the word for that is grifters.
Uh, okay, there you go. Another creative thing. All right, you guys.
Anyway, hey, before we go,
Oh,
like, comment, ring the bell, subscribe, share with your friends. We want everyone to be part of our conversation because why not? All right.
yeah. When it stops being fun, we're going to stop doing it.
Exactly. Exactly. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.
Have a good one.